I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them.
Continue our coverage this evening of the local state employee who was arrested and terminated from his position after several kilograms of suspected cocaine were seized. And I have a look at what happened in court today.
I don't believe we'll be requesting a formal declaration. I believe we'll simply eliminate those flooding our streets with poison. Understood? We'll eliminate them. We're back tonight with continuing coverage of the state official detained and fired after multiple kilograms of suspected cocaine were discovered. Here's what unfolded in the courtroom today. The discovery? 8 kilograms of cocaine located inside the governor's headquarters, carried by the official tasked with representing the Western Territories. This wasn't some cartel hideout. This was the center of governmental power transformed into a distribution point. This wasn't a foreign threat. This was betrayal hidden behind official credentials.
Child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. He's a dirty cop.
If you're ready to see how far the corruption extends, let's go deeper. Anyone with common sense knows what this represents. If you're directing the FBI and can't grasp what this represents, it represents infiltration at the highest levels. And the message is crystal clear. The system has been compromised. At 5:12 a.m., Springfield, Massachusetts streets remained empty. The corridors were silent. The Springfield State Office complex was breached. DEA agents, supported by FBI tactical operatives, moved through the building like shadows slicing through darkness. No sirens, no announcements, just deliberate footsteps and the heavy weight of what they were about to uncover. A metal door exploded open with a thunderous crash. The sound rippled through the facility like an earthquake. Inside, mountains of administrative files and official portraits lined the desk, symbols of civic duty. But duty had been abandoned. On the meeting table sat a sealed delivery container. But when agents opened it, the truth hit them like a sledgehammer. 8 kilograms of pure cocaine, a 9mm handgun, and an envelope stuffed with $38,500 cash. And there at the desk, locked in handcuffs, was Lamar Cook, Deputy Director of the Governor's Office for Western Massachusetts. A man paid by taxpayers to serve the community. A man who had spoken about ethics before cameras. But now, he stood exposed with enough cocaine to flood multiple cities. This treachery went deeper than any drug seizure. Because when those sworn to defend the system start corrupting it, if you're still with me, you understand this goes beyond narcotics. This is about infiltration. Drop a comment so I know you're following along. After Lamar Cook's arrest, the DEA's forensic technology team examined the laptop recovered from Cook's office. Encryption software not usually present in state buildings. The FBI's cyber specialists worked through the night. When they finally cracked the security, the investigation transformed from a single detention into something exponentially larger. The monitor displayed shipping manifests, delivery schedules, and elaborately encrypted correspondence. A pattern of shipments across 14 months. Cartels are producing methamphetamine pills designed to look like Adderall. Counterfeit medications, fentanyl products, methamphetamine crystals, all smuggled from Mexico. These are only samples from the 500 pounds of narcotics seized during a federal offensive against the Sinaloa cartel. 19 deliveries in total, each ranging from 8 to 20 kilograms. All moved through standard state mail systems and pickup locations in warehouses and docking facilities. The further they tracked the evidence, the more identities emerged. Not corner dealers. These weren't criminals hiding in back alleys. These were people who had taken oaths to serve and protect people who were now poisoning their own communities. The positions of those involved were shocking. Street officer, detective, deputy administrative clerk, each had a specific role. Together they formed an underground pipeline, an organization designed to move cocaine discreetly through Massachusetts streets, schools, and homes. Agents traced the distribution network, and what they found was chilling. Shipments arrived during normal business hours. The FBI operation resulted in dozens of arrests, including patrol officers, department deputies, and 2 sheriffs. Packages moved through the State House delivery system. Product was hidden in government-owned storage locations. The cocaine didn't come from Massachusetts. It came from a violent criminal enterprise dominating the Northeast, known as La Nueva Sangre, a paramilitary drug organization operating from New York to Maine. This is corruption from the inside out. Authority positions, oaths, things meant to protect citizens have been turned into weapons against them. And now the question isn't who, but how far this network reaches. And what comes next won't be subtle. It will be all-out war. This is where the quiet phase ends, and the war phase begins. Tap like so, the algorithm keeps this visible. At 3:50 a.m., inside a federal command center near Worcester, a digital display of Massachusetts illuminated with red markers. Each marker indicated a site linked to the operation: storage facilities, hideouts, parking structures, and distribution houses suspected of sheltering gang operatives embedded within normal neighborhoods. At 4:03 a.m., a single command flashed on a secure monitor: execute all teams. Then everything moved at once across 5 districts. FBI, DEA, and state tactical units launched simultaneously. 14 locations, 14 minutes. No advance warning, no exit strategy. In Lowell, armored transports blocked a 2-level auto repair shop. Operatives assembled at the entrance. A brilliant flash from a breaching charge. The steel barrier swung open. Inside, 3 suspects grabbed for firearms, preparing to resist, but resistance was futile. Flashbang grenades detonated, sound waves bouncing off concrete surfaces. Simultaneously, in Springfield, a warehouse operating as an agricultural supplier concealed something entirely different. Beneath the covering tarps, 200 pounds of cocaine and 90 pounds of fentanyl wrapped, packaged, staged for delivery. The operation didn't remain quiet long. In Worcester, a security feed in the loading bay detected activity. Within moments, suspects had seized their rifles and were attempting escape through the rear passage. A Black Hawk helicopter thundered overhead, rotor wash, rattling the structure. A voice boomed through the speaker system: weapons down, no escape. The suspects continued firing. The passage exploded into firefight conditions. Muzzle flashes illuminated the brick surfaces. Rounds ricocheted off pavement. A DEA operative took cover behind concrete. 2 FBI agents moved forward, controlled and methodical. Precise bursts, steady breathing, zero hesitation. After 9 minutes, silence returned to the street. 3 suspects remained motionless. 2 surrendered, trembling as they realized their escape plans had collapsed. By dawn, the operation's scale was impossible to deny. 47 detentions, 1.2 tons of narcotics recovered from multiple sites, 129 firearms, including illegally modified weapons and international imports, countless phones and encrypted records loaded with coded identities and transaction histories. News choppers circled above. Citizens observed from their homes. And throughout the state, one reality became undeniable: this wasn't a minor operation. This was an empire functioning directly adjacent to homes, schools, businesses. And now, for the first time, it was collapsing. But the raids accomplished something else. Those digital traces were about to expose the complete structure of the underground empire. If you're still here, you're someone who faces the truth. When the dust settled and suspects were hauled away in restraints, the actual work started. The raids were just the entry point. The real framework of the network remained concealed, threaded through companies, residences, and institutions, appearing legitimate from outside. Inside, the Boston Federal Analysis Facility walls displayed monitors showing evidence gathered overnight. Agents, analysts, financial investigators, and technology teams operated side by side. Every file confiscated, every drive duplicated, every encrypted message decoded word by word. As information emerged, a map materialized. Not a map of locations, a map of control. 4 major distribution routes crossed Massachusetts, hidden within lawful transportation operations. Their vehicles transported food products, building materials, industrial equipment, anything permitting sealed cargo to pass without scrutiny. The cocaine Cook possessed was merely one terminal in a supply line extending from the Mexican border through Ohio into New York and ultimately arriving in Boston's suburban ring. Then came the storage infrastructure. What looked like community food distribution centers were actually concealment facilities. Behind pallets of frozen goods sat brick-shaped drug packages labeled with coded markings, showing purity, grade, and final destination. Next were the money channels. Investigators discovered 2 private gambling establishments, compact, exclusive members only. No flashy signage, no masses, just discrete backspaces where tokens converted to cash, and cash converted to wire transfers flowing into dummy corporations registered in Delaware and Puerto Rico. No red flags, no oversight. Capital moved as if it belonged. The most disturbing revelation involved charity organizations. A nonprofit supposedly supporting community youth programs had handled over $11.3 million in contributions. The contributor identities were fabricated. The funds originated from drug profits, and that same nonprofit distributed consulting payments, political contribution support, and security contract payments to multiple local authorities. The network had engineered itself to appear beneficial to neighborhoods, beneficial to government, beneficial to everyone except families mourning overdose victims. This was the tragedy. The cartel didn't operate in darkness. It wore the face of ordinary society. Your auto mechanic, your neighbor, your local fundraiser backer, your elected official. This is how it persisted. Not through violence exclusively, but through confidence. Purchased quietly. As final markers were placed on the investigation wall, the room went silent. The magnitude was now beyond question. $220 million in yearly revenue, thousands of families impacted, government compromised internally, and yet another pattern emerged. Vulnerabilities, dependencies, positions where operations relied on a limited number of active participants. The empire might be extensive, but it was fragile at critical junctions. Those junctions could fracture. The determination was reached. The next stage wouldn't be observation, it would be elimination. The shield had been tarnished, now it would be restored. The raids had revealed the network. The evidence had shown its structure. But the most difficult phase was just starting, because the cartel's most powerful tool wasn't the drugs it distributed, it was the individuals it had corrupted. At sunrise, unmarked federal vehicles approached police stations, government buildings, and administrative centers throughout Massachusetts. These weren't the rapid, forceful entries from earlier operations. These were calculated, clinical, unavoidable. Inside a precinct in Worcester, officers assembled for morning roll call like every other day until federal agents entered through the main doors, not carrying raised firearms, but carrying arrest warrants. A lieutenant with 23 years of service watched in shock as his credentials and weapon were confiscated. A detective previously commended for dismantling drug operations dropped his gaze as handcuffs locked around his wrists. A purchasing coordinator stood frozen as agents accessed a file drawer and extracted envelopes of falsified community program funding. 17 law enforcement officers, 2 city administrators, 1 state purchasing consultant, all placed under arrest before midday. No outbursts, no justifications, just crushing silence. Some officers turned away. Some stared downward. Some watched with anguish in their expressions because they had sensed something wrong, but never imagined the betrayal extended this far. On the street, an elderly man clutched a folded American flag, the identical flag he once presented to the station following his son's memorial. He observed quietly as officers were led out in restraints. No yelling, no rage, just the expression of someone understanding the uniform he respected had failed him. Outside, residents assembled in scattered groups. Some showed anger, some showed heartbreak. Many simply remained in frozen shock because it wasn't outsiders who had contaminated their streets. It was men and women they relied on for protection. In Boston, the governor spoke to the state. His tone didn't thunder. It was firm, measured, like someone bearing the burden of fractured infrastructure. When the badge becomes a tool to hurt citizens, then the shield is shattered. And when the shield is shattered, we rebuild it. We don't turn away. In answer, the Integrity Oversight Task Force was established, an autonomous agency with complete authority to examine police organizations, government departments, financial movements, and supply networks connected to public institutions. The objective was unambiguous: rebuild confidence where confidence was stolen, reconstruct institutions where institutions were exploited, defend communities where communities were betrayed. It wouldn't be rapid. It wouldn't be easy, but it had started. Cook's detention had initially appeared to be an isolated scandal. Now it was recognized for its true meaning, a signal of how near the darkness had approached. And moving forward, Massachusetts wouldn't turn away. The shield would rise again, restored whole and monitored by those who refused silence. When the final door shut, when the last record was filed, when the badges were gathered and locked in evidence storage, Massachusetts faced a moment of somber reflection. Not triumph, not comfort, something weightier, something authentic. Because what happened here was never solely about cocaine, currency, or confiscated arms. It was about confidence. The confidence between citizens and the institutions pledged to protect them. And that confidence had been destroyed from within. The warehouse assaults, the office, detentions, the gunfights in passages and loading zones. All of it revealed one truth, cutting deeper than the substances themselves. The danger wasn't just beyond our boundaries, it was in our uniforms. It was functioning from our offices. It was greeting us daily. But the same state that was penetrated also resisted. Not with dismissal, not with concealment, but with unwavering revelation and responsibility. Badges were stripped, offices were purged, agencies were reviewed, identities were announced publicly without concern for their former status. And now the question remaining is the one that counts. What happens now? Because corruption doesn't end in one raid. Cartels don't disappear in one strike. Confidence doesn't repair itself immediately. This account isn't exclusively about Massachusetts. It concerns every municipality, every region, every agency throughout America that assumes immunity until reality strikes. So I'm asking you not as an audience, but as citizens living under the same principles. Do you think this battle should persist? If you agree, hit like so this reaches the next individual who needs to see it. Comment below, shield or silence. Where do you stand? And if you want to track the next development, subscribe and remain with us, because the battle for integrity continues. Massachusetts was just the start. The next state won't collapse this quietly.